I want to talk to you about documents required for domestic shipping. Okay, there are certain documents that are really quite essential when it comes to domestic shipping. So here's an overview. The important thing is that having the correct documents required for domestic shipping is really vital to getting your freight to its destination promptly, right? You have to understand when you ship an item via the postal service, for instance, or via via UPS, FedEx, or DHL, you have a couple of regulations to really abide by, and you also have some instructions internally. So those carriers have their own guidelines that you have to comply with as well. Unfortunately, what has happened here is that a lot of shippers constantly forget to fill out the important documents that accompany their domestic freight shipments. In some cases, shippers don't even know which documents they should use in the first place. So in today's conversation, I really want to clarify things for you real fast, okay? So the Department of Transportation, DOT, requires various documents for domestic shipping, from bills of lading to freight bills to a packing list to a proof of delivery to hazmat reports. So in today's conversation, I'll clarify those documents for you. Now, the thing is, those documents communicate detailed information about your shipment that's used by the carrier, receiver, and sometimes the local and federal government, okay? Each one of those documents actually is unique and must be completed with care. So I want to give you more details on each of them so you can avoid making potential mistakes. Now, let me give you a few facts here. What are shipping documents used for? Well, shipping documents are more than just pieces of paper for you to write on. They help convey important information that carriers need to transport your goods. So depending on the goods that you're shipping, depending on the goods that you have, your shipping, your carrier may actually have some regulations that they have to follow. So you might need to include documentation indicating that you comply with those regulations. The receiver of your goods also uses shipping documents for their needs. So you have record keeping. So especially when it comes to hazmats, okay? So things like gases, explosives, flammable liquids, corrosives, those are really important. So you want to really comply with regulations, like in terms of like DOT has a variety of regulations that you need to really comply with: railroad transportation, air transportation, highway safety, national safety for transportation, right? So you have a lot of stuff to think about. And you also, please don't forget to really inform also your recipient, the person you're shipping the goods to in the first place. So let's talk about the types of domestic shipping documents. First, you have bill of lading. Bill of lading. So you can see on the screen here. Here is an example of bill of lading. So the bill of lading is actually the most common type of documents used in both domestic and international shipments. So that's kind of cool because if you ship a lot, you probably are familiar with this document. So regardless of which type of shipment you are making, the information that the bill of lading asks for will be the same, okay? So the information actually includes some of the following. I'll put this on the screen so that you can remember. So you have the shipper's address, and the shipper's is usually called the consignor. And then you have the receiver's address. The receiver is sometimes called the consignee. So when you hear the term consignor and consignee, you are speaking about shipper and receiver. So those are the first two things that you need to put there. You also need to put the date of the shipment, the quantity of goods being transported, the exact weight of the goods, really exact weight of the goods. And don't play games with the weight, because UPS, USPS, and FedEx, they're really pissed when they realize that a customer is actually playing games with the weight. Okay, so just be careful and honest here. And also the classification of the freight being shipped. So another field in the bill of lading that needs to be filled out is actually the packaging type that will be holding your freight. So this can include the following options. You can have cartons, crates, pallets, and drums. So that's really important. Now, if you want to include specific instructions to the carrier or a special tracking number, the bill of lading is where you will include this information at. The bill of lading also has a field where you will cite hazmat information about your freight. This field is left blank if hazmat are not part of your shipments, okay? Lastly, there are multiple types of bills of lading you should be familiar with. You have an airway bill, so this is the bill of lading used for air shipments. And you also have an ocean bill of lading. This is the bill of lading used for ocean shipments, okay? So the ocean bill of lading is used for international shipments, so you won't have to worry about it if you are just shipping domestically. So besides the bill of lading, you have the freight bill. So this is the second document required for domestic shipping. And so the freight bill is pretty straightforward. But the thing is that the freight bill actually has tons of info that can really protect you in case there's a problem. Okay, not just in case there's a problem, but just to give you more assurance about what's going through your supply chain. Whether you are an e-commerce business or you are a brick and mortar business, you will appreciate having a freight bill. So freight bills and bills of lading are fairly similar to one another because they both require that the same information be included in them. That said, the freight bill differs because the information that it provides about the freight is explained in more detail. So when you think about a freight bill, you are having a level of granularity here. So there's an extra layer of granularity that you have to really go through when you think about having a freight bill. So think of the bill of lading as a summary of your shipment and the freight bill as the essay for it, okay? Additionally, the freight bill provides information about the shipment's consolidated cost. So that's really good from a management accounting point of view. That's also good from a scalability point of view to have a clear idea, let's say cash inflows and cash outflows relating to your supply chain. And that's important. Lastly, the freight bill is not a legally binding agreement like the bill of lading is. So bill of lading, legally binding, freight bill, not legally binding. So both the freight bill and the bill of lading are used in conjunction with one another. So you must fill out both documents with extreme accuracy, okay? You want to make sure that the info that you have on both forms is actually consistent. Because if God forbid, the authorities want to really pay attention to your shipments and they realize that there is a inconsistency in the data that you actually transpose from one form to another, this could really create issues. Could also have delays, and you do not want to have that kind of problem, especially if you are shipping time-sensitive items domestically. You want to make sure that you are as accurate as possible and as granular as possible also. The next document required for domestic shipping is actually the packing list. So a packing list is also interesting in terms of the level of granularity it does provide. So packing lists are more often encouraged for international shipments, but they are commonly used for domestic shipments as well. It really depends on the level of granularity you want to really pursue with your supply chain. And so in some industries, packing lists are just the norm. In others, it's okay, it's optional. So packing lists contain information that pertains specifically to the items you are shipping. So here I want to insist on the word specifically, okay? So the info included in a packing list includes the shipping address, the date of the order, the list of the shipped items, the weight of the items, the quantity being shipped, the SKU and UPC for the item. So this really gives you a little bit of flexibility in terms of having the shipment being read by machines like shipping software, for instance. Because if you have a SKU and UPC, you are really instilling a layer of automation here. And also, you might have on the packing list the slip or PO number, purchase order number. So the packing list can be included in the box holding the items or on a palletized shipment outside of the boxes in a clear plastic envelope attached to the box. So the packing list is provided specifically for the receiver, not for you, the shipper. It's only for the receiver. So with the packing list, the receiver can determine if any goods have been damaged and if any goods are missing from the box, okay? So it's a really good from an accountability point of view. Packing lists provide great customer service, which is one of the many logistical challenges that receivers face. Therefore, you should make sure that your packing list is always accurate. Very important, especially if you are shipping to to a faraway location. You want to make sure that you are really having data as accurate as possible. Remember that a packing list, or a packing slip for that matter, contains an itemized list of all the goods included in a shipment. So that's really good. Another documents required for domestic shipping is a proof of delivery. So POD, okay. So the POD is actually a document that is actually signed by the receiver of the goods. So it's only the receiver, and the receiver actually is confirming that everything is fine. Proof of delivery. So by signing the document, the receiver actually is confirming directly or indirectly that they now have possession of the goods and that the goods are in acceptable condition. Okay, it's one of those things where sometimes for legal purposes, you got to have a proof of delivery. And the pod will have a force of will have a legal force in the court of law, by the way. Now, carriers provide this document in either paper form or by email. So regardless of which form the proof of delivery comes in, you always want to ask for a copy for your own record keeping. You just never know, okay? Because having these documents ready will be useful in case the receiver causes a dispute regarding the well-being of the goods when they took ownership of them. I mean, you just never know. People play games sometimes. You'll be really surprised what receivers may actually come up with. You just want to cover yourself, okay? So the next documents required for domestic shipping is commercial invoice. So a commercial invoice serves as a proof of purchase and includes all the details of the sales transaction between the seller and the customer. And so it will include details such as invoice number, for instance. This is something you see a lot. So the invoice number, you can have customer name, address, and contact info. Seller name, address, and contact info also. The item description and quantity. You can have the item value, the item weights, and the shipment terms. So pretty granular also in terms of providing an extra layer of explanation, okay? But the cool thing about having a commercial invoice is that you can also use this for financing purposes. There are some financing arrangements where, for instance, if you are thinking about a merchant cash advance or invoice factoring, having an invoice can really serve as proof that you own the asset, you own the accounts receivable. You also have hazmat. So if you think about documents required for domestic shipping, you might have a hazmat report. So hazmats are dangerous, and when spilled, they can be harmful to anyone exposed to them. Therefore, there are arduous amounts of regulations enforced by the DOT that shippers and carriers alike must follow, okay? So when transporting hazardous materials, your hazmat shipping papers must include the following information: the ID number of the shipment, so really important, the appropriate name for the hazmats, the corresponding hazard class for the freight, corresponding sub-hazard class if applicable, Roman numerals representing the packaging group, the type of packages actually, and the number of packages holding the hazardous material, and the total amount of hazardous material. So you have a lot of granularity here, okay? It's one of those things where you have to make sure that you understand what the authorities are trying to do here. The authorities are trying to navigate a pretty complex transaction while actually safeguarding the overall integrity of the nation's transportation systems. Okay, you do not want to have ammunition actually exploding on a highway, for instance. Okay, you do not want to have that. Now, paperwork for hazmat shipments doesn't have to follow a specific format. However, it does need to be recorded on paper in a cohesive sequence. Okay, that said, the info on the hazmat goods must be to the specifications of hazmat regulations specified by DOT. Okay, so don't forget that when you think about hazmat, you also have something called dangerous goods form. So this is kind of similar to hazmat, but it's a little different depending on the industry you're in. So a dangerous goods form is a declaration indicating that the seller has packed, labeled, and declared the consignment in accordance with the applicable regulations. Remember, consigning and consignor, right? So those are terms you need to be familiarized. You need to familiar with now. And so a dangerous goods form will include details like name and address of the shipper, the airway bill number, the shipper's reference number, the page of pages, consignee details, departure airport, destination airport, shipment type, nature and quantity of dangerous goods, including proper shipping name, class or division, quantity and type of packaging, authorization, and also additional handling information. You also might have, in some cases, emergency response information. So this document specifies what action must be taken in case of an emergency pertaining to the hazmat being shipped or any other things happening, okay? It should include the following details: basic description and technical name of the material, immediate health hazards, risks of fire or explosion, immediate precautions in the event of an incident or accident, immediate procedure to handle fires, procedure for handling spills and leaks, and recommendations for preliminary first aid measures. So those are things to really think about. Now, if the shipping docs are filled out incorrectly, this could actually create problems, okay? There are a variety of different problems that could arise if you don't fill out all your shipping documents correctly. So some of the common mistakes that shippers make and the corresponding repercussions include listing the wrong address, causing your shipment to be sent to the wrong location, not including the right amount of goods with the proper description on both the bill of lading, the freight bill, or the packing list. Any mistake that's made with regards to shipping documents will always cost you time and unnecessary stress. In some cases, it could even cost you money. The best way to avoid those mistakes is by getting yourself some help if you can, okay? Now, what about domestic versus international shipping documents? While domestic and international shipments both needs to have proper documentation accompanying them, fortunately, domestic and international shipments share all of the documents that I just listed to you. Now, there are some additional documents that you will need to include when dealing with an international shipment or freight, and I have an entire video that will actually cover that. But you have, for instance, pro forma invoice, commercial invoice, certificate of origin, certificate of conformity, and letter of credit, among others. Another distinction between domestic and international shipping documents are the federal agencies involved. Customs and Border Protection is the agency that oversees all imports and exports. The CBP also has strict requirements regarding certain shipping documents. So depending on the goods you import, you might need to satisfy the regulations of another federal agency. That means obtaining any additional shipping documents they actually require. So here's a quote into this conversation. I spoke to you about documents required for domestic shipping. I gave you the overview, the facts, and now the quota. In terms of types of domestic shipping documents, you have bill of lading, freight bill, packing list, proof of delivery, commercial invoice, hazmats, and emergency response information. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.